This dude owns a pizza shop in Delaware.
Okay.
Pretty popular, too. And he's in there, and things are closing up. And all of a sudden, a guy comes in, and he's going to rob the place.
Oh, no.
He's got a machete. He's like, give me all your money. At this point, the owner had nothing else better to do but to pick up a pizza and throw it at the guy.
A full pizza?
A full pizza. It's Rob Lizz, his morning crew on his radio. At this point, a pepperoni must have went up the guy's nose or whatnot because he hightailed it out of there.
And he had a machete.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So evidently, if you have a pizza nearby
Yeah.
and you throw it at a guy who's trying to rob you, he runs.
Was it like one of those stars that ninjas throw? You know what I'm talking about? What are those called? I mean, that's the way he had to have flung it at him.
We have no idea what the toppings are on this thing.
It was a Supreme. It had to have been.
Pretty heavy, big
Yeah,
pizza. Thankfully, I mean, that could have been bad. Really been bad. If you seriously look at this thing, and I know we're kind of poking fun because the guy tossed a pizza and the dude ran out.
Yeah.
The owner's laughing about it now. He's like, I threw a pizza at the guy and he ran.
But why would he even think? Because I would have been looking for a weapon. Honestly, I would have been looking for a phone, a weapon, anything.
I think it's just instinct.
Exactly. Well, and he was probably tossing the dough up and he was making the next pizza.
Throws it at the guy.
That's wild that the guy ran. Maybe he
ran out of there.
He was gluten-free.
Oh, I see what she just did there.
His morning crew.
The house is up for sale. It's Rob and Liz, his morning crew on his radio. If you remember, this was an 80s sitcom, right? The Golden Girls?
Yes, I think so.
Golden Girls, 80s sitcom. The house that is supposed to be in Miami is not in Miami. You probably already knew that. It's in L.A.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I honestly, I figured it wasn't in Miami. Didn't know it was all the way across the country. But yeah, it's in L.A. It's actually in Brentwood, which is a very posh neighborhood.
Oh, really?
Yes,
You've been there, evidently.
Oh, no. I've just seen it on a lot of shows. But yeah, if you want to go, you're going to need some cash. The house is up for sale. Looks exactly like you remember.
The front of it.
On the outside. Mm-hmm. Once you go in, the girls would have been astonished from the Golden Girls. Like, it's absolutely gorgeous.
They probably flipped it a couple of times.
Oh, I'm sure. Since then, it's very up to date.
The funny thing is, the people who owned the house, they passed away. So that's why it's up for sale. It's on a trust, up for sale for, you said $3 million, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So the people who owned it did not like the show at all. They were not fans of the show. They could care less that the front of that home was the picture that everybody saw when they watched the Golden Girls back in the day.
But still, it's a conversation piece. It had to. Maybe that's why they didn't like it. They were sick of hearing about it.
Yeah, it could have been. The Brady Bunch house.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched it on HGTV when they flipped the whole inside of it to replicate the real Brady Bunch house on the inside.
Ooh.
The outside was just it. It wasn't even a two-story home. But then they had to go inside and then gut the thing and make it look like the iconic set of the Brady Bunch. Mm-hmm. And they had to build on the back of the house the second story.
Well, if you think about it, if I remember correctly, it was kind of a ranch style, wasn't it?
It was.
So how do you get...
But there was two stories when you got inside.
And huge, like 100-foot ceilings.
Nobody cared.
Like. I never thought about it until you just brought it up.
Nobody cared when they watched the show at all. It's crazy.
And that was a very dated house on the inside.
Yeah.
If you think back.
Now it is again on the inside.
His morning crew.
Trinity and Alexis has been friends since kindergarten. Mm-hmm. They're teenagers now, and something tragic has happened for Alexis in her life. She has been diagnosed with a degenerative disease. It's spinal muscular atrophy, type 2. Mm-hmm. So her muscles are getting weaker and weaker and weaker. I mean, she's confined to a hospital bed now. And Trinity goes and visits her best friend all the time. So when they were growing up as kids, Trinity and Alexis loved Disney. And they loved superheroes. And so Trinity reached out to Disney and said, listen, you don't have any superheroes that have disabilities. Mm-hmm. So she was written them. She's YouTube videoed. She did all that stuff. She hadn't heard anything back. So she decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make my own comic books. And I'm going to make my own stories. And these are going to be superheroes with disabilities.
That's amazing that she did that for her friend.
Not only did she did it for her friend, but it becomes so popular, she's done it for other kids as well. So far, she's written 4 books. Mm-hmm. One is Happy Zane. Alice the Ace and the We Can Squad Saves the Day are some of the books. And here's the thing. Alexis's brother illustrates them.
No way.
Yeah.
I was wondering, did she have to hire somebody to do it? Just keeping it in the family, who also probably was inspired by her friend Alexis.
Alexis is just thrilled that her friend Trinity is doing this.
Think about, that makes me want to cry because you're thinking about a best friend's bond is incredible, but to have your best friend do that for you and you can't do anything for yourself in that situation.
It's
and
amazing.
she took her talent and did it.
Yeah. So many
Good
kids
for
are
you.
being inspired because of that story.
Yeah.
Rob and Liz.
His Morning Crew.
Bridger is a good big brother.
Yeah.
He loves his little sister. You should see them together. They are inseparable, these two. Well, his aunt wrote an Instagram about Bridger and the type of big brother that he is. And here's what she wrote. This will tell the story to you well. My nephew is a hero who saved his little sister from an attacking dog. He himself took on the attack so that the dog wouldn't get his sister. He later said, if someone's going to die, I thought it should be me. So he got home from the hospital just last night. I know it's a long shot, but I'm reaching out to the Avengers and other heroes so they can learn about this latest addition to their ranks. And then he tags all of these actors that played in the Avengers, including Chris Evans. And Chris learns about Bridger. He's only 6. His sister is 4. Bridger, because of saving his little sister's life, he had to have 90 stitches in his face, and he had a 2-hour surgery. It's really, really rough. So now he covers his face right now.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, Chris Evans hears this, and he's going, I've got to reach out to this little guy. And here's his video message, a part of it, to Bridger.
You're a hero. What you did was so brave, so selfless. Your sister is so lucky to have you as a big brother. Your parents must be so proud of you. I'm going to track down your address, and I'm going to send you an authentic Captain America shield because, pal, you deserve it. Keep being the man you are. We need people like you. Hang in there. I know recovery might be tough, but based on what I've seen, I don't think there's much that can slow you down. Bye, buddy.
Oh, I wish you could have seen this. We're actually going to show this to you on our video replay at hisradio.com, Apple TV, and Roku. But Chris, they show a side-by-side of Chris, and then little Bridger and his little sister watching it on an iPad, and he literally is wearing a Captain America costume.
Yeah, with the mask and everything to kind of cover his face, as he's recovering. And at the end of it, his sister's just like, wow! And Bridger just sort of sits there and takes it in.
So Mark Ruffalo reaches out to him. Tom Holland, Hugh Jackman, Zachary Levi, they're all among those who've reached out to little Bridger.
So you're talking about the Hulk and Spider-Man and Wolverine, these huge superheroes that this little guy recognizes, and that he is a true superhero.
Absolutely. Bridger, thank you for leading the way. In our hearts, you are a superhero.
Rob and Liz.
His Morning Crew.
You know, we're in the middle of this pandemic and all, but it's really neat to see some of the acts of kindness that are being shown through it all. Hi, it's Rob and Liz, His Morning Crew on His Radio.
One of those acts of kindness is for brides, but more specifically, brides who are also healthcare workers. So there's this organization, they're called Brides Across America. They're a nonprofit out of Massachusetts, but they do reach across, as the name says, across America. So what they're doing is they're trying to get you to donate your gowns, your wedding gowns, as long as they're, I think, within the last 5 years. They love your gown from 1972, but they're looking for a little more up to date.
If your gown is from 1972, you are a superstar because you're still married.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Right.
You keep at it.
But they're looking for some more, up-to-date gowns. So what they've done, they started in 2008, and they donated to members of the military, first responders, that kind of thing. They've donated 25,000 gowns since 2008. They've turned their attention this year during the pandemic to frontline workers, healthcare workers. And so what you do, again, is you donate your gown and they get it to a person that is in need.
That's great.
I think
Good
it's
for them.
incredible. Yeah, and they said they really want the frontline workers because a lot of them have had to push the date back of their weddings, and they want whenever that happens for them not to worry. That's one thing they don't have to worry about. They can take it off their plate, and they'll get them the dress.
That is so good.
Yeah.
I don't know if have been shown, or maybe you've helped somebody or have heard of a story of an act of kindness that's similar to this, that's happened for you. Maybe a neighbor helped you out in the middle of all of this. We'd love to hear your story. Here's the number. It's 800-447-7234. You can call or text in and be a part of His Morning Crew this morning.
His Morning Crew.
I can hear it now. The 911 dispatcher picks up and the person says, excuse me, you're not going to believe this, but there is a kangaroo loose in our neighborhood. This is in Florida. It's Rob and Lizz, His Morning Crew on His radio.
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. There's a roo on the loose right down the middle of the street. All the cops surround the kangaroo, and he doesn't really fight back. He's kind of playful with them.
Yeah, because mostly kangaroos are like in defense mode.
Yes.
It's like, oh, you coming near me? I don't know who you are. And then they come up and they kick you.
Yeah, they bow up. And then they kind of stare you down, get in boxer pose. Yeah, and then they kick you. But this one evidently was a pet of someone. But they did call the Fish and Wildlife Commission to take the little kangaroo into custody. Did they cuff him? Like, I wonder, is that how that goes down? I don't know how that happens.
Well, it's cool because it's all captured on all their body cams.
Right.
And a news helicopter shows up.
Of
and
course
so
they
you
did.
see the aerial footage of this full thing at the Fort Lauderdale Police Department.
Yeah.
But it almost seemed like the whole department showed up because I don't think they really got a kangaroos in a neighborhood. This is Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
This does not happen here.
Exactly. It's one of those calls that if I heard it come over, I'd be like, oh, I got to go to that one. I'm not doing anything right this second, so I'm going to go look.
So they put a leash on him
Yes.
or her, whatever this kangaroo is, and put it in the back of a police cruiser as if they're going to go bring this kangaroo in for questioning.
Of course, it couldn't ride shotgun. I mean,
Before the Wildlife Commission comes and
Yeah.
gets the kangaroo, they're still trying to figure out where'd it come from?
Right.
Whose pet is this?
The funny thing is when all of those police officers showed up, they had their phones, of course, and they all took selfies.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. As soon as they caught it, it's like, okay, selfie time.
Rob and Liz.
His Morning Crew.
Oldest dog you've ever had. What about you?
Maybe 8.
8 years?
9?
Really?
Yeah.
Oldest dog I had was 15 years old.
Really?
A mutt from the pound.
Oh.
Got her in 91 when
Yeah.
Amy and I first got married, and she passed away in 2006. 15 years old.
It just breaks your heart when that
Oh,
happens.
when that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
The last dogs that we had before Lucy, because now we have Lucy in the family. I call her a puppy. I think we've had her for 3 years.
Yeah.
Still acts like a puppy.
They're always your puppy,
I
no matter
know,
what.
right? And so they lasted from 06 until last year. Yeah, so that was sad. But I just learned about August, who they call Augie. Augie just had a birthday. I like what they gave to Augie. Celebrated with a Safe for Dogs carrot cake.
Oh, they love carrot cake.
Evidently. Yeah. And when you look at Augie, you can tell Augie's up in years.
Yeah.
Augie is elderly. Augie turned 20.
20?
20 years old.
Because usually smaller dogs can live longer into the late teens and 20, but what is she?
Golden Retriever.
She's
Not in the
big
face
girl.
anymore. The face is all white.
Yeah. Oh, she's so
And you can
sweet.
see the age in
Yeah.
Augie.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Her owners are Jennifer and Steve, and they got her from the pound.
Yeah.
Or it was a Golden Retriever rescue
Oh,
when
okay.
she was 14.
Oh, so they've only had her about 6 years, but
It shouldn't have been that long.
But they made these years so well for her, so good for her. Yeah.
And Augie is still with us. Augie's in a family picture with some other Golden Retrievers that are elderly as well.
It's like the Golden Girls.
Yes, it is the Golden Girls. And she's down on like a little blanket. And I guess she just couldn't sit like the rest of them, but
Right.
she's in the picture.
Because they're all young. She's Sophia of the group. Oh,
There's Sophia. I don't know who Sophia is. It must be in reference to the Golden Girls.
The Golden Girl. She's the mom, the oldest
she?
one. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. And if you know the show, I think she was actually the youngest one.
Exactly. You
In
do
real
know
life.
the show.
But not that well.
Mornings with Rob and Liz.
Tony's a young man, 11 years old, and he has had a rough life from the beginning. His parents gave him up. He was in foster care for a while. By the time he was about 4 or 5 years old, he was adopted into a forever home.
Aw.
But then something happened. 11 years old, the parents didn't want him anymore. They dropped him off at a hospital, and they never came back.
Are you kidding?
Never came back. So Peter is a foster parent, and Peter gets a call from one of the workers. And then the worker said, hey, could you take Tony in for the weekend? He's got no place to go. His parents dropping him off at the hospital. Could you just take care of him for the weekend? Well, he kept him longer for a weekend. I mean, they did everything together. Tony was really getting cheered up. They watched movies. They played board games. They read. He went cycling. They got on their bikes. Well, November last year, Peter adopted Tony.
Really?
Single dad. And now they're father and son.
They just had that bond.
Yeah.
That's who he was supposed to be with.
Isn't that?
Right?
Yeah. Such a horrible thing. I mean, that Tony has had to go through his life like that. They even have matching T-shirts. Families don't have to match
I love that.
because dad is an African American
Yeah.
and Tony is a Caucasian.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Isn't that just
At
a
all.
beautiful story?
It
How
is.
God brought these two people together, father and son. They do.
Right.
They just do everything together. And Peter still does foster care.
Does he really for
Yeah.
other kids? So Peter saved this boy's life, but I bet in turn he saved Peter's life.
He did. You can certainly tell.
Rob and Liz.
His morning crew.
There's a couple from Texas. They always wanted a big family. Andy and Thomas, they wanted a big family. They tried to have children, and it just wasn't working out. Went through some fertility things, things like that. Ended up, they did have 2 biological children, but they wanted more kids. Well, Andy's doctor said, you really don't need to. It's trying on your body, and it could be detrimental to the child as well.
Oh, my.
So you need to not. So they said, okay, you know how we can do this? We can foster kids. So they started fostering. They took in a little boy. He was a toddler. Then they decided, oh, he's got siblings. Okay, well, let's take in 2 more of them. Then they took in 2 more, 5 siblings altogether. So they've had them for a little while. And all of a sudden, one of the little boys comes up and says, can we just live here forever? Now, as a parent, when you hear something like that, your heart just melts, right? They adopted them all.
No way.
Yes, they
Good
have-
for them.
They have 2 biological children. They have 5, what do you call bonus children? I want to find a really great way to say that, bonus children. So now they have 7 kids. They adopted siblings so they could stay together. It's 4 boys and 1 girl.
That is wonderful.
Isn't that cool?
I'm glad they did that. We fostered in our family for a number of years.
Yeah.
And there was this one little girl that came in, and then her brother and sister are at different places. And we just felt like they needed to be together. So we contacted and said, listen, we'll take them all in. Had them for over a year.
Did you really?
Yeah, and I'm glad because they would have been separated for that long.
Yeah. Do you, and this is a question from someone that's never fostered, do you get to continue a relationship with those kids?
No.
Or? Oh,
No, it's kind of sad.
it is a
That's
little.
it takes a special
It really
person to
does.
do that. And I'm not saying we're special people, but
No,
oh
but-
my word.
Well, because you have to know this is the commitment that I have to follow to. And it will hurt, but
Oh yeah, you're in their life for a very short time
Yeah.
just to help. So we just love the best that we can, show them Jesus through our life, and then there you go.
Stop. That is so nice.
What?
Like, it just makes me just.
I just wanted something that I never had. I was a kicked out kid, and so at least we're able to help out a few.
Rob Dempsey, I didn't want to cry this morning.
Oh, you're welcome.
Rob and Liz.
His morning crew.
Sydney is just an amazing young lady. She has to go to the hospital. She is so young. And Sydney has to have chemo treatments. She has a service dog to help her out along the way. And then COVID-19 hits. And for 2 months, she's not allowed to have her service dog with her when she's getting the chemo treatments. Just not allowed. And this is what really gets her through is her service dog. They are inseparable. And they can't have the dog in there because of COVID-19. And if it gets into the dog's fur, they're afraid that, that's going to really
It'll transfer, sure.
hurt her
Yeah.
big time. So they just want to keep her safe. That's why they do that. And so all of a sudden, it comes this one company that's been making a onesie for dogs for years. It's a cute little onesie.
Mm-hmm.
Now her dog wears this. It's from Shed Defender, and they've been doing this for quite a number of years, but not because of COVID-19.
For allergies, right?
Yeah, for allergies and stuff like that. And so now this dog, which is a big German Shepherd, beautiful dog. Wait till you see some of these pictures that we'll have on his radio TV. But he's wearing this full onesie outfit and now back in with her for the chemo treatments.
Yeah.
And she's got a smile on her face again.
Of course. And even has on the little booties.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't track anything around the hospital and spread anything to anybody else or her as well. I think it's just an amazing product that they found. It's been around for years and then thought this can be transferred to COVID-19. Because she can't have parents there. She can't have friends there. She's got to have her dog.
Yeah. And that's helped her out along the way.
Well, of course, it encourages her.
And she's got a smile back on her face again. And she's able to endure it.
Thanks to Tulsa.
She is such a strong young lady, let me tell you. We're praying for you, Sydney, every step of the way.
His morning crew.
What is it about cassettes that all of a sudden people are buying them all over again? We're talking retro. We're talking, what, 1800s here?
It feels like
It
it.
does, doesn't it? It seems like it was an eon ago.
Yeah.
We're talking, what, mid-90s is when the cassettes started going out because of compact discs.
Exactly.
At the time.
They were
If we were to
obsolete.
give you a history lesson, there it is.
Yeah.
And so now the more and more of those things are selling. They said between January and March of this year, even before COVID
Right.
hit and social isolation, it was about 65,000 cassettes, which that's huge in the cassette world.
I don't get it.
They're thinking 100,000 will be sold by the end of the year, and so there's this resurgence. I'm thinking, okay, what are they, the throwback artists? No, or kinda. It's like Selena Gomez and another pop group, 5 Seconds of Summer. What is that?
Right,
Mary?
yeah,
Did I
yeah,
say it
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then a couple other groups that I won't mention because I don't want my kids ever listening to their lyrics.
Sure.
But yeah, all these cassettes are starting to be sold. It's like a comeback all of a sudden.
I don't get it. I remember, if you remember having a cassette, like they would get off a little bit and you'd have to take a pen or a pencil, put it in the little hole.
Reverse it back to make the tape tight.
Yeah, because if you didn't, the machine would get a hold of it and stretch that tape.
And crunch it all up and get it all
Yes.
wrinkly so when it plays, it would sound really weird.
Yeah, and if you played the same song or part of the cassette over and over and over, then it would end up like...
That would be your favorite song every single time.
Right? It was
Yeah.
terrible. So I don't personally get it. And it's strange to me that somebody like Selena Gomez or 5 Seconds of Summer
Yeah, the pop artists like that
Yeah.
would.
of today
Mm-hmm.
pretty much are going back to cassette. What's next? 8-track?
Yeah, well, vinyl is now.
Vinyl,
A lot
I
of
get.
people. How do you get that and not the
just-
cassette?
I don't know. I don't know if I like that. I don't know. I like that a little
Oh,
bit.
the sound of the pop
It-
from the record needle
right.
on the vinyl?
Yeah. To me,
Yeah.
that's a little more retro than a cassette.
Okay, yeah, it is retro.
Yeah. And the dropping of the record was always super cool.
Wow, she's having memories here.
Well, yeah. And I mean, you can get them. You've been able to get, they're expensive though, the turntables. You've been able
Yeah,
to get
they
them
are.
for about the past decade.
And
or
it's
so.
funny because you plug them into a USB so you can play them through your computer.
It's the weirdest.
Bluetooth record player so you can
Yeah.
put them through a sound bar.
Yeah. And they're a couple $100, and then the needle costs a lot as well.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things are not easy to come by.